Cooking with CT in the house. How you doing, Cameron?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Living the dream, my friend, one day at a time. Sorry for rushing and short notice and not getting here in time and what have you. But as I've said, life sometimes gets in the way, and nobody can understand that more than a gentleman like yourself, who is just as busy. And what have you been busy fishing lately?
You know what? We've had a real cold snap here for the last 2 weeks, and we're talking. I think last Saturday, I woke up. It was minus 35 without the wind chill, and maybe I'm getting old or just weak, or that is not my thing to go out when it's that cold. It's kind of dangerous and stuff breaks a lot, and it's just. We're mobile, and we bring our hut with us. We pull behind our sleigh. It's just not fun when it gets that cold for me.
And you know what? You said it best. Stuff breaks, and the last thing you want is something that you need and rely on to break on you in minus 20-degree weather on big windy. Never been there, but I'll tell you, I've heard lots of rumors, and if half of what I heard is true, big windy is not a place to get stuck on without having everything working properly.
Yeah. And you know what? And typically my son and I, we just go by ourselves on our sled. And sometimes we do go with friends, but not really during COVID. So you got to be smart if you're going out there, by yourself. And, if things break, things can go bad real quick.
Amen. Amen. Sally's with us. Erica, how you doing? Steve Moretti, yeah, baby. Mike Gilchrist is in the house. Christina, yes. Look at you. All you guys in to dine in and hopefully get a tidbit of information when it comes to a cool recipe. Because I can honestly say the only goose that I have ever eaten in my life is goose sausage. When you were starting to show legs and breasts and giblets, and I've never done that, nor have I ever had it. So I'm in for a treat. This is a new area for me, but I think we got the right guy to show us how to do this properly and to make it palatable and good table fare for all of our friends.
So what I did actually, I think it was last spring for Outer Canada, was a Moroccan goose. And I think we talked about that last year as well. And I did it at sort of it was an ice fishing show in November in Winnipeg. And I did it up on the live stage, and it was so well received. I think it was on the second day, and I said, I've got to put this in the magazine. Honest to God, I made up that recipe kind of in my head of what I wanted Moroccan flavors. I know what Moroccan flavors are, with the cinnamon and star anise and nutmeg and peppercorns and all that stuff. And it's so exciting. The flavors, they just burst. And so when I went to the show, again, I just had a bunch of ingredients and just sort of talked to people, how to prepare, a goose, which, really, if you come from, the way up north, and that bird is flying, 4,000 miles, all the way down to South America or whatever, everything is very, very tough. The breast, the legs. Ducks, not so much, because if you have a duck breast that's only like that thick compared to a goose breast, that's like that, it's got so much connective tissue in there. But you have to treat it differently.
Well, you know what? I agree 100%. Not that I, as I said, have ever had goose like you're describing it, but to Steve Moretti's point, I have to agree. You put crispy Cajun on a chunk of wood, and it still tastes good. But let's not go there. We have Cameron in our midst here, renowned chef. And as I said, if you don't and you haven't seen any of his work in Outdoor Canada, you have been missing out big time. He's here, and as are we, with a crispy Cajun prize pack. So make sure you share up this video, and we will reveal the question at the end of the broadcast. It's kind of cool because it goes in with what we were doing on Monday's live and the announcement that was made last night during Haley's Big fundraiser, extravaganza, and congratulations to Melissa who won the prize pack. But as I say, our taste buds are drooling. We're in great anticipation to what we see in front of us and the palette in which you are going to deliver. So, Cameron, take it away, my friend.
It's funny, we were talking just a little bit off air about, a different camera angle, and I can show a whole lot more down here with my freshly cut finger last night when I was preparing some of the goose. Ooh. Just a little bit of a scratch, but my daughter says that this camera angle shows off my gut. She called it, well, so
you will look. Listen, Madison. It's Madison, correct? Madison.
Yeah, it's Madison.
Madison, I'm going to tell you, your dad looks anorexic to this guy over here. So you know what? I'll take a few selfies to make you feel better about how your dad looks. How about that?
Yeah, she calls me Tubby sometimes, which is really nice, so that it's good for my my gentle ego. So anyways, other than that, so we talked about flavor journeys before, and actually it was 2 nights ago I did a cooking event here for a bunch of kids, and they're from 13 to 17 years old. And it was super unique. And this colleague of mine that I taught probably around 7 years ago, she is now a culinary instructor. So I'm very proud of that. And she's teaching kind of, inner city kids, and, just about how to cook and how to connect, harvesting and, things that you can just grab from your fridge. And we did a similar dish. It was sort of like an orange sweet chili walleye, and I showed them how to make rice. And these are the basic things that kids don't know how to make. And it was, so I had about, I think, 12 or 15 students, and they would come in, they would come out, and then I would show them how to do the walleye and how to cut the peppers and how to cut the carrots and do different things, and how to cook the rice. So the cool thing was, at the end of the show, so I'll back up, Camille, the instructor, she ships all of the food to all of the students to their homes. And if there's 4 people in their home, they get enough for 4. If they have 6, they get enough for 6 people for dinner. And so we basically prep it all together, and then we cook it together, and then they get to feed it to their families after, which is really, really powerful.
That is. Holy crap. Well, I love hearing stories like that.
Yeah, and it's
hear enough of it.
And some of them, they I'll just say that, a meal in the morning, a meal at lunchtime, and a meal at supper time, we take for granted, and I think that the majority of them, they don't get that. And they were so excited, and, and so they go, here, what do you think? I did this, and it was really exciting. I was really proud, of that. And but anyways.
Cool.
Go ahead.
Absolutely, very cool. Now, just before we start, obviously we're going to be doing goose tonight, and for some of us who have only had goose sausage, this is going to be a real step up in our game. But could you do this recipe, or do you imagine yourself doing this recipe with, say, chicken, or, as Christina has mentioned, grouse?
Oh, absolutely. And back to the cooking event that I had on Tuesday, and one of the families said, we're not crazy about fish and walleye. Can we use chicken? And I said, it's perfect. It is an absolute perfect swap for walleye to chicken. And they ate it after, and they said, it's easy, it's super tasty, and it's healthy. And it's not deep fried. And I did actually use the same Cajun because I had it there in my pantry. So I showed them how to dust it with that and how to pan fry it, and then add orange juice and sweet chili and peppers and onions, and bring it to a simmer. And while the rice is cooking, and the comments that I got were really, really great. And that's pretty good when you can teach someone to cook And at the end, you know, they were showing me on the TV, like, look at this, you know, I made this, you know, and so that was really cool.
Well, you know, and this is the thing, like as I said, I never want to take what you bring to our CFN community for granted, but the way it just flows off your tongue in terms of putting certain things with certain other things, ingredients, just, I don't know, there's something that I can honestly say that has put you certainly at a different level than a lot of us, because those flavors and those suggestions that you just mentioned, I wouldn't even dream of. So, again, Cameron, can't thank you enough for sharing all this.
Yeah, thank you. So we talk about flavor journeys, and I got a bunch of different ingredients here. And typically what we do is I tell you why I come up with this dish. And this is all the things that I've had in my fridge. I actually just shot a dish for Outdoor Canada, and it was a goose and shrimp gumbo. So I used the breast for that, and it was so tasty. And so that's going to be, actually, I just got the edit tonight for that from Patrick from Outdoor Canada. I'm going to send that off, and that'll be in probably 2 months. That'll come out in the magazine, and it's really cool. So that was the breast. Now we're going to use the leg. But first, we're going to talk about flavors. So we do have the base. Where is this? So we've got the base here, the Cajun one. So, you know, it's got a little bit of heat, and it's got the right amount of salt. And actually, it browns really, really good. I really like that about the product.
So sorry, Cameron, just one of the things that I wanted to mention to people, because I get asked a lot, like, what separates this from other mixtures out there? And two things that right off the bat hit you when it comes to ingredients. One, it's not as, like, typically stuff like this is very high in sodium. This is not. The other thing that catches your attention right away is preservatives. A lot of these kind of things have a lot of preservatives. You won't find, I don't think, other than the salt, one. So there's no additives, and it's low in sodium. So it's not bad for you either.
Yeah. And, you know, the first time I used it, I'm like, this coat's really good. It smells great. This is no joke. The flavor is spot on, and you know, I haven't tried all the other flavors. I like spicy, and this is absolutely my favorite. Where I put it, you know, the crispy Cajun, and so it's and it is versatile because you don't have to dip it, say, in a milk. It says you can dip it in a buttermilk, which gives it a little bit more body and depth. Typically, I would do that in the wintertime, sort of like a heavier, you know, deep fried, and then say in the summer, just a pan fry. The only thing is, you know, just watch your temperature if you're pan frying it, because it will cook quite quickly, you know, so you have to watch that. But that's, again, there's not a lot of fillers in there really at all. So that makes a difference.
Tony is asking.
I'm going to push this one dog out of the way here.
Well, you have how many there tonight? 4 that are eagerly awaiting final, final plate. Tony's asked a question. Would you, Cameron, marinate the goose in craft beer, like a stout beer? I do.
That would be delicious. Okay. That would be really, really nice. Okay. And don't think that I'm being over analytical. So I would pair the beer, you know, with what the garnishes are going to go with it. You know, so there's a shock top, you know, which has the orange elements in that, and the orange peel, you know, that would go great with, say, like if you used a little bit of apple marmalade, that would be really good. And even an orange and a balsamic vinegar would go good. I wouldn't go something that would be like a heavy stout bitter, because, you know, it is fatty, and, you know, if you add something that's a little bit bitter in there, I don't know. I'd have to try that, but that wouldn't be my first choice. But absolutely, marinating will give this more flavor. Awesome. One thing that I don't know if I told you, we're making this in a pressure cooker, and I did that last year, and it took 40 minutes for us to make this dish on stage, basically from the time that I put that lid on, compared to maybe 4 or 5 or 6 hours that you have to cook this goose leg and thigh, because it's very, very tough, lots of connective tissue. For sure 4 or 6 hours, but we can do it in 40 to 45 minutes in a pressure cooker, and all that flavor is pushed right into the meat, and it's amazing.
I'm going to zip my lip and I'm going to let you get at it.
Okay. We're already quarter after, which is fine. So again, if you want to decide which way you want to go, you can go with mushrooms. That's no problem. Mushroom and onion and garlic and red wine. Ooh. Red wine you can do. And what would go really great with that? A grainy mustard would be beautiful. Mustard, wine, onions, mushroom. It's a home run. But we're not going to do that. The one thing, actually, with that one, you can actually add apples. Apples, mushrooms, and the wine, and everything goes well together. What we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of apricot. You see that? I can never get used to this camera. Okay, apricot. I'm going to hold my hand right there. And then we're going to add a little bit of heat, dried pepper. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of citrus. And then we're going to add a little bit of natural sweetness. And I already said that. And then we're going to add some peppercorns. So it adds a little bit of a natural spice, which is really good. And so now we're developing those layers, right? What we talked about before. And then with that, this is cool. I got this in Switzerland, and it's actually a pear in a bottle. It's pear liqueur.
Pear liqueur. Wow.
They actually, no joke, they put these bottles on the tree, and they've got this whole network of wires and cables and everything. And they put each individual bud into each one of these bottles. And once the pear grows into the bottle, then they pull it. They fill it with the liqueur. They kill all the bacteria. And there you go, pear liqueur.
Wow. I don't even want to know what a bottle like that costs.
This is around $40. It's not bad, but I bought this around 20 years ago. Jeez. So that one's really good. So now we've got a little bit of liqueur and pear and apricot and orange and apple. Does it make sense to your brain? It does now. I mean, yeah.
Of course, because we don't all have that pear liqueur, would you be able to substitute it with anything?
Yes, you can use the wine.
Okay.
You can use, we can actually use a little bit of maple syrup. I had another liqueur that we can use. My wife really likes this one.
Oh, who doesn't? Especially you put that in coffee.
Or shooters, like on Christmas Eve, which is really good as well.
Absolutely. Oh, Tony came up with a good question. What about peach schnapps? Would peach schnapps be a good alternative?
Peach schnapps is good. I think, when you say things like that, like peach schnapps, gin, for me, I get nauseous and want to throw up because, when I was 16 years old, I got really sick on peach schnapps. So I'm going to say no to the peach schnapps, but it's a little bit not as refined flavor, but what the hell? You can do it. It'd be okay.
Right on. Steve is mentioning a good substitute, if you don't have alcohol, is apple juice. Would apple cider also be good in a pressure cooker?
Totally. Where's my apple cider? Here. So this is a really good substitution that you can have as well, an apple cider. And like I said, you can use marmalade, you can use apple jelly. The sugar and the natural sweetness will cut the fat and the gaminess of any animal like this.
Beautiful.
So duck à l'orange, right? You know, and everyone knows that, you know. That's why sweet and sour goes together. You know, sweet items go with pork. And we get so used to it that sweet goes with certain things when we don't think why. You know, because pork is fatty, goose is fatty, duck is fatty. You know, so you, it's funny. It's like an automatic response. Oh, we're gonna put, you know, we're gonna put pineapple with pork, you know, and we're gonna make it sweet and sour type of thing. But not on pizza.
But not on pizza.
Is that a debate? Is that a debatable thing?
No, I don't think so. Christina's asking about Cointreau. Christina, I'm not a chef by any means, but I would say the Cointreau, you're going to want to wait till after dinner to enjoy that. I'm not so sure it would go great with this, but Cameron will correct me if I'm wrong.
That's a really good question. Whether Cointreau, I'm not a Cointreau, you know, aficionado. I was teaching one of my staff the other day. We were making a dish. We were making smoked salmon, and no, we were making a certain soup. So I forget what it was. So I said, now think of the soup that you're making in your brain. And I said, and now take this spice and smell it. And I said, what does your brain say? And she goes, no. I said, you're right. Because your brain is talking, you know, to your nose and back and forth to say, no, that doesn't make sense. You know, apple and nutmeg. Yeah, that tastes really good. I can go on and on. But a lot of times if you even say something, you'll think about it and go, yeah, that sounds really good. You know, versus Cointreau, I can't get it in my head. You know, whether that would go, it probably would, you know, to be honest.
There you go.
Okay, so we got a balsamic. So you got sort of like an oak smell, a little bit of acid and depth and body. This works. So we're going to make this dish up right now. I'm not kidding, or I'm saying that I do not know the dish, what we're going to do, other than we're not using the mushrooms, because my kids don't like mushrooms. Okay, so now let's do the goose first.
Now the goose has been asked for someone who has not eaten goose as you're preparing it tonight. Is it much like duck? Would you compare it to duck, or is it closer to chicken?
A chewy duck.
A chewy duck.
Okay, 1 second. I got to get my other knife.
Okay.
Tell a joke or something.
What I'm going to do is, guys, we were given an announcement last night of who won the Haley's fundraiser giveaway. We are also going to be giving prize pack from Bait to Go, care of Scotty's Outdoors tonight at the end of the broadcast. It'll be a question that is directly related to what went on with the Haley's fundraiser / giveaway. So stay tuned to that because the answer is shocking. But even the guesses alone, I'm sure, will be shocking. Take it away, Karen.
Okay, so if you see here, we got all this excess fat. This camera is a little bit slower, eh?
Yep.
Okay, so all of this fat here on the outside, I'll go like this. All this is going to come off, and all this is going to come off. Do not throw this out. You know, it's really great. Remember, we made those fried potatoes and duck fat. I am remembering that was an Arctic char dish. Remember?
Yes, it was. And holy crap, I could see why you cut yourself. That knife is extremely sharp.
It is sharp, yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so we're going around where the meat is, and so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this and I'm going to render it down, and then you can use that for sautéing and stuff. Okay, so now what you're going to do is, if you take a look, basically these are all tendons down in here, so we don't want that. So kind of like a chicken drumstick. This is where I cut myself. So we're going to pull this back. And this is just for aesthetics, you know, to make it look nice. And then you take your knife and so now it just looks a little bit nicer when you have the bone exposed like that. So now there's a trick to finding where the joint is, and the joint is right there. So if you slide your finger in, you go, oh, there's the joint right there.
Okay.
You take your knife, and you don't want to go this way. You want to line it up basically in the center between the leg and the thigh.
Makes sense.
Is this light too bright here? This one?
Nope. Not really, no.
Okay, so now that's where the joint is. And, you know, the joint muscles on ducks and geese are really, really tight. Chicken, they're fairly loose, and you can kind of get in, you know, even close, and the cartilage is soft. Everything is soft on a chicken because, you know, chickens that we eat, you know, from the store, they get basically almost no exercise, you know, and they're roughly, I'm trying to rethink, 16 weeks, you know, and they just walk around, they eat and they poop, and then they go to the store. So what a life, eh?
I'm telling you, man. And I thought I had it bad.
My wife just went.
Yeah, we went there. We did. We went there.
Okay, so we got the joint. So there it is. So now we've got our leg. And if you take a look, there's a little bit more fat we can take off here. And then if you flatten out the thigh, you're going to see that there's a little bit more of the fat here that we can take off. And you know, it was funny, Scott. I did this dish last night to see exactly how many minutes it was going to take to do in the pressure cooker, either 40 or 45 minutes. And so it took 45 minutes, and everything was great. And so I put it on the counter, and then and I was going to save that to show a nice finished dish. You know what I did? Oh, the dogs were there.
No.
And I was like, well, I'll just break this off. And I started feeding the dog, and she loved it. And then as soon as after I did that, I was like, well, that was dumb, you know, because I wanted to show the finished dish. But we're going to show the finished dish after, because once we get all this in here and cooking, that'll be it. And then I'll show a little video later on of the finished dish. How's that?
Fantastic. Works for me. Okay.
So now we've got our leg and our thigh, and I'll do a couple more. And these legs are actually from a farm just north of Winnipeg, and I've used their products before, and they actually use the feathers for the Canada Goose jackets.
Interesting. I was just going to ask you, so this is you would consider this farm-raised geese, correct?
This one is, and the funny thing is when I was looking at getting my ingredients ready for the magazine 2 weeks ago, I was like, I swear I had some goose here somewhere, you know, in one of my freezers. And so I'm like, I can't find it anywhere. So I'm going to, my daughter asked a friend, and he had some goose breast. And so it worked out good. But then I dug around in the freezer a little bit more for some minnows that a couple days later, I'm like, oh, there's a goose, you know, but they're all goose legs, which is fine.
So I'm going to ask you, there seems to be an awful lot of meat on the legs and breasts that you're cutting up in front of us here. Is that because it's free range, or will you see that on wild goose as well?
You would see it on a similar of a late season goose, but not anywhere this size, you know, of a wild goose.
Okay.
Okay, so if you take a look at this, take a look at that. Doesn't look so nice, right?
Oh, I don't know.
Look at that. Looks nicer, right?
Great presentation. Absolutely.
So to speed things up, what you can do is you can cut a little bit of an incision down here, and then it'll open up the meat, and then it'll cook it just a little bit faster. But in the pressure cooker, it's really amazing. And my wife said to me last night, She said, that's not going to blow up, is it? And I said, no, actually, it's got 4 safety features on it. You know, that if you Google pressure cooker explosions, you'll find some pictures of pressure cookers embedded into ceilings or the lids or are part of, and there's an equal and opposite reaction. Part of it wants to go down this way, and part of it goes up that way, and part of it that goes this way goes through your stove. It used to, you know, so it's pretty violent.
And definitely, it's not something to mess with. So make sure that you buy a reputable brand, and you know a thing or two when it comes to dealing with pressures and how to release it when it comes to opening it and what have you. Sean obviously asked the obvious question when it comes to your goose. Is it better to eat farm-fed goose or wild goose?
Holy. Okay, so you know, I don't know what goes into the feed, you know, but they obviously want to feed the geese, you know, a proper diet, you know, and so that they're healthy, and you know, if they're healthy, then the farmers get paid, right? This is a really good point I just thought of. There was one time I went hunting several years ago, and we were nowhere near an area, you know, that had like a dump, a city dump. The city dump was way on the other side of the city. I opened up that goose, and I opened up like the depths of hell, and I don't know what it ate. And I was cleaning it outside, and one of my former staff, Carl was his name, and he always wanted to clean a goose. And I said, well, I'll show you. Come on over. I've got some goose, and I saved him one. I put it in the fridge, and so we opened it up. We didn't even cut into the cavity, and he's just like, is that how it's supposed to smell? And I went, no, not really. So
anybody that was hungry before this broadcast started probably isn't so much now.
So that being said, it was obviously eating something that was not good because, it was terrible. That goose, unfortunately, went in the garbage.
Fantastic. So there's a question here from Jeanette. Instead of using a pressure cooker, what about an Instapot?
Instapot would be great.
Perfect.
We've got really the pressure cooker. The only thing it's going to do is cook it very fast, and then sort of push those flavors in. And it's going to be really, really nice and moist because it's sealed, right? And it's not going to give off the moisture and evaporate. Gotcha.
Now you're dipping the goose in the Cajun right now, and then putting it on the skillet. Or?
Yeah. So I'll show you here. I just got to wash my hands.
No problem.
So I got it on a medium heat, and I know my wife is writing this down as we're talking. You're not? Anyways, a nice medium heat because we want it to brown. We want to brown and not burn. But the smell of this is amazing, and it's just the seasoning itself. And again, you know, I can add a bit of moisture on there and let it sit in there, and then it can have a little bit more of a coating on it. But this is all what we really want this moment. Tell a joke for a second.
When marinating the meat, can you put the goose in the fridge overnight? Absolutely, Curtis. In all situations, marinating meat sometimes longer is better, and especially if it has a gamey taste. Typically, I would highly recommend using things like milk, or as Cameron just mentioned, red wine. But milk, I find, especially if you're not a big fan of bass, marinating it overnight in a bag of milk can sometimes take that bassy taste out of it and make it a more whiter, palatable meat.
And even if you add a little bit of lemon juice, fresh lemon, in there as well, it does wonders, you know, really. And even a little bit something that would really surprise some people is you put a few drops of vanilla extract in there. And when you taste it, it's something that is so minute in flavor. You'd say, well, what is that? You know, a lot of people can't put their finger on what it is.
Interesting.
But milk is a really good way of pulling out some flavors that are unwanted, for sure.
So this is the stage that you're at right now. Is we've put the crispy Cajun on the goose, and you are just pan-searing this at a low temperature. And this is the pre to the pressure cooker step that you're taking.
That's right. So look at the color of that. Isn't that nice?
Incredible.
And so what we're doing now, we talked about, you know, browning is flavor. Caramelization is flavor, and we're building that. So I can just put, you know, the Cajun spice on there, throw everything in a pot, and you'll kind of do the same thing, but you won't have as good of flavors with it. Still be acceptable.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so now this one's just slowly browning. So now let's take our onions, and now we're going to develop some body. So a half of an onion, Sandy.
That's so awesome. Jeanette is asking, would you recommend using a vanilla extract for marinating salmon? I want to love it so bad, but it's just a tad fishy.
Why is it fishy?
That's a good question, but I would assume for folks who are not big fans of salmon and trout, it's because it has its own distinct taste, much different than that of, say, the white meat of a walleye, where it's less tasting. I mean, I think it has a taste, but a lot of people would suggest that it doesn't have that, you know, shovel in the face kind of taste that a trout and salmon do.
And, you know, we're not all on the East Coast or West Coast. We don't all just pluck salmon or char or rainbow trout or brown trout out and then, you know, cook it on the edge of the shore. But my question is, you know, why is it fishy? Is it fishy because, you know, it wasn't handled properly, or, you know, it's got freezer burn or something like that? Can you use vanilla with salmon? Absolutely. You know, that would be actually quite nice. Okay, so now we're gonna add our citrus component. And the cool thing with this one here is we're just gonna go like very carefully.
Very carefully.
Yeah. Okay, so now we've got that in there. So we're gonna put exactly 14 peppercorns. My wife is still shaking her head.
I was just going to say, did she put in big bold letters very carefully? Add.
You can add some apricots. You know, I got 9 in there. Why do I have 9? That's all I had in the pantry.
Well, there you go.
Okay, so now this is really, really important. You've got to make sure that we're going to add, you know, some seasoning. We've got the pepper. That we've got our spice. We've added our kosher salt, a nice.
Now, Cameron, just to step back a bit, when you add salt to any dish, there's a certain je ne sais quoi on how you do it. Is there not?
I don't know. That whole. I've never done it. I've never.
There you go, buddy. Oh, that's you know what? The effort is what counts. And yes, Christina, that is a Cuda knife.
Yeah, it is. I'm going to show you a Cuda knife after. I just got one. It's really cool. It's a brand new one. Okay, so now, anyways, the liquid is really, really important. So if you've got that much of, say, your meat and your vegetables, you have to have almost that much of your liquid. But a pressure cooker is only meant to be, you know, having half of your pot tops filled with ingredients, because it needs room to expand. And there should be a line on here, not to overfill. There's got to be one. Maybe I scraped it off. Anyways, but if you don't have enough liquid, you are cooking it at about 230 degrees Celsius because you're boiling it, right? Essentially, but it's a very controlled boil. So now we're going to add in our balsamic, which is nice. We're going to add a 1/4 cup. So this adds a little bit of acid. It adds some body to it. Let's add some red wine. I've turned off the goose.
Okay.
Because it's mostly brown. So now let's add, you know what? This won't go because I've added the red wine. And the red wine and the pears, it's okay. And then we have some pomegranate juice. You know, that's really nice. We're going to add all equal parts. I made this, it was very similar last night of sort of what I did here. And we're going to add a little bit of natural sweetness with that apple jelly. We'll add, I need a spoon that'll fit in the jar. We'll add in basically 2 tablespoons, and that's sort of a nice sort of apple, nice sweetness. So here's our body, and then I'm going to add 1 cup just of water, and you can add stock if you've made a stock before of the bones. And I'm going to see if I need to add any more.
So you want to get up to the halfway level. Now that's halfway before you add the meat, or?
Well, my ingredients right now are right here.
Okay.
So I'm going to add in the goose. It'll maybe come up a little bit more, and I'll just sort of gauge it.
Now,
there will be some moisture that will come out of the, you know, of the oranges here.
Yeah. What I'm foreseeing in the future, once this concoction is done and you pull the top off this, that will act as an incredible gravy for some mashed potatoes to go along with this.
I think so. Okay, so we've got the excess fat. We don't need it. Okay, so there is going to be fat that's going to come out of that. So if I could just try to show that. So it's hard to say. So right now I've got this much of the goose, and I got about that much of the liquid. So I'm just going to add in another cup or 2.
And you would use water as opposed to wine in this situation?
Yeah, because too much of a good thing, yeah, it probably wouldn't be very good. It'd be, yeah, it could be a little bit overpowering.
Gotcha.
Yeah, my wife just said, unless it's Christmas Eve. We played Monopoly for the first time in, I don't know, like 20 years, and both of us are not drinkers. I get terrible migraines, but it was a really stress relieving Christmas Eve, and we had quite a few drinks. But my wife was, how should I say, fine form. You know, it was a 20-year experience.
Had a girl, Sandy, for you.
We had a blast, and I think that after, like I say, this year for everyone, you know, even the non-drinkers, you know, maybe have indulged a little bit, which is okay.
Now, you mentioned too before you could add stock in replace of water, correct?
Absolutely. All it's going to do is give it more depth. And I've got, one second.
Well, hopefully you've fully recovered, Sandy. Christmas has been a long time ago, and if there's anything left in the bottle, you did good. You did good.
That's why when I pulled this one out and she's sitting right over there, I said, "Hey, about this one," and she went.
She didn't break out.
I've actually got, this is this is actually a turkey stock.
Okay.
This is from Christmas time. So it's in a sealed container, and I poured it in here super hot. And then what happens is you have your fat on top here. And this seals out any oxygen. So there's no oxygen that's going to go in here to make this go bad. This can sit in, and it's a very concentrated turkey stock. I started off with a pot like this, and then a pot like this size, and then I reduce it down pretty much to fit into this. So,
and this brings back memories because my grandmother many years ago taught me that trick. You have to pour it in a glass jar, because I could never understand, because us kids, the grandkids, would always get to clean up the dishes, and I'd be like, why does she recook the gravy? Why does she heat that up? Do you have any idea how hard it is to get it off this friggin' pot? But she would always tell me that in order to have it properly sealed, exactly for that reason. So that brings back a lot of memories. Grandma, there you go.
These are mustard jars that I have from work, and I'll open this one because this is really well sealed. I don't want to open it, but it's once you pour your liquid in there, like boiling hot right to the top, and put this down and clamp it, it actually will suck everything, really, really tight. You can boil it in here, in water, and then for it to seal it even better. But they're amazing jars. I've got so many of these.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, so what else? So the only tip that I'm going to give, I think, at this point is I'm going to taste this. Taste the liquid in here.
You're going to do that in front of all of us?
Oh. Well, it's nothing special at this point. Okay, so it needs more sugar. It's a little bit high on the acid content. So again, if we added in a little bit more wine, then it's even way up here now. So you can add like a white sugar, you can add a maple syrup. So that one's okay. You can add brown sugar or a white sugar. I'm gonna save this for my waffles. That's all the syrup we got.
Brown sugar?
So we're gonna add some white sugar. My wife just said there's more maple syrup in there. So I'll add 2 tablespoons of sugar. And this is the whole thing, Scott, is playing around with some things. No, I don't have a set recipe. Yes, of course, at work I have hundreds of recipes, that we have to use, and we have to be creative as well. And but at this point, you want to make sure to taste it. And is it too acidic? Is it too salty? Is it too much pepper? But the orange juice hasn't come out of the whole orange. The apple and all the pectin and everything is still in that. The onion, flavors haven't come out. So right now I'm tasting with a little bit of that sugar. It's good. Nothing else needs to be added. And this is my favorite.
Yeah, baby.
Hands down, that's my favorite. So now what we're gonna do. So this one here, it actually has like 4 safety features. It's got one here. So that's sort of like a lock. And then you've got this one here.
Okay.
So then that'll start to open up when it's really getting hot. And then there's this one will start dancing around, when it's at a right temperature. And there's also this one here as well. So that's 4 safety features plus the locking on it. So what you're gonna do is put it on there like that, push down, and then you're gonna lock it in place. And once the pressure starts to build in this, you cannot get this lid off.
And the idea of a pressure cooker, for anybody who doesn't understand the concept behind it, is it forces the liquid, all of your spices, you know, the basically the nuances of what you put in that pot to
nice word, nuances.
Yes, I couldn't think of anything else, but it basically infuses into the meat, correct?
The essence, all those, the essences and the orange and the onion and the peppercorns and the balsamic, all of that is pushed into the meat. Rather than, you know, you can do it in a slow cooker or whatever, but if you do a slow cooker, make sure you put a lid on there so it's not going to evaporate out.
Gotcha.
And this one here, I think I got it at Canadian Tire, is maybe $80, you know, on sale. Everything's overpriced at Canadian Tire at regular price. So everything comes on 50% off at one point or another.
At one point in time, absolutely. For all those who are Canadian Tire flour buyers, I salute you.
So what I like to do is bring this to a visual simmer, and then I'm going to put my lid on. And then very quickly after that, you're going to see the steam start coming out the top vent, especially this one here. And then you're going to see the steam coming out of this one. And but the thing is, when this thing starts to really, you know, dance, then you got to turn it down.
Okay, so start at medium heat is what you recommend, and then go from there.
Full blast. Right now, full blast. Okay. You'll just save yourself time.
And this roughly is going to take about 45 minutes to prepare?
45 minutes, it will be ready, yeah.
Right on. Well, we look forward to the video.
Can you tell in 45 minutes?
What story? No, I couldn't. I'd probably bore myself to sleep if I tried.
Okay, so now it's just starting to come to a boil. Even in this one here, I could add, you know, some parsley. Let's do that. Not dried parsley.
Fresh.
So the stems, you know, have a little bit of bitterness to them. You can take that off. I'll be upset. My wife would be upset if I put those back in the fridge, right?
No.
It's like my kids, you know, they put an empty milk carton back in the fridge.
No, none of them ever do that. Just ask them. They don't do that.
Or the empty toilet paper roll.
No, that doesn't happen. And you know what? The driveway clears itself.
Okay, so now I'm still going to leave it on high. And if you want, you can do a draw or whatever. This will probably take maybe 3 minutes to get up to speed.
Right on. And then you're going to do a video to show the aftermath of this incredible infusion of flavor and goodness.
Yeah.
Right on, buddy. Well,
I don't know what else. I think so if anyone wants to see the recipe that I did, kind of similar to this one here in Outdoor Canada, it's a Moroccan goose. I tell you what, I'll tag that. I'll tag the CFN family of the recipe from Outdoor Canada on that one. I also did a goose schnitzel last fall, which was really great, you know, with onion, mushroom, and a grainy mustard cream sauce, which was really great. So goose is pretty versatile, but you got to have a little bit of different thinking with it. And then what else I'll do is I'll just do a little plating, and then I'll do a little video recap after.
Right on. Sounds fantastic. In the meantime, if everybody who was watching the Haley fundraiser giveaway last night, they did a fantastic job, Julie and Erica. The Snyder family, our best wishes are with you and Haley and your entire family. I'm going to give Bait to Go Outdoor Flavors Crispy Cajun prize pack away to the person who can guess the closest to the final tally of dollars that they raised. And I think you'll be surprised at where they got to in the short period of time that they did this fundraiser. But Haley, the Snyder family, and all of us here at the CFN family are so thankful for everybody and the generosity There were a lot of anonymous donors that gave some sizable donations, but that's all the hints I'm going to give you. The one who gets the closest to the final tally will get a Bait to Go Outdoor Flavors prize pack. And make sure your comments or your guesses are in the comments, and the closest one will win.
That's a really great. I was reading up on that. I haven't had a lot of time to participate, but that you guys are awesome, hands down.
Right on, buddy. Well, likewise, right back at you, and we look forward to the final product. Thanks for spending an hour with us on a Thursday, as we're going to try and do this at least once a month. I know our schedules are busy, both yours and mine, but if we could do it once a month, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, and it's scheduling is a big thing, and the really good thing is that COVID has kind of calmed down here. I still have the same kind of I have to do the same sort of beliefs, of being smart and not going here, not going there, and but we are much better, and so thank God for that,
Amen.
Because it's been a long haul, and if you just take a look here, it's very close. So once this starts it raises up actually, and then it starts to jiggle, then you know that it's at the optimum temperature, and then find that sweet spot. And then once you have that sort of sweet spot, then start your timer.
Perfect. 45 minutes later, we are going to see this fantastic goodness, and the clock starts very, very soon. In terms of the clock starting, also for all of you Winter Fish Fest participants eager to get started, everyone outside of the province of Ontario, and I'm saying this very loud so Cameron and Brennan can hear this, but if you want to enter a fish and perhaps win a prize, outside of the province of Ontario, starts at midnight Saturday morning this weekend. Again, we look forward to all of the submissions, and we will be releasing the code, Michael and I, midnight, basically in 2 nights. So very soon we're going to have our first submissions of the Winter Fish Fest. So can't wait. Let's get ready. Let's catch some fish and make sure we're not traveling too far to do it.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out what we're going to target this weekend. It's supposed to be -7, I think, on Saturday, and -1 on Sunday, which is a colossal difference from last weekend. So we'll probably be out on both days, and who knows where we're going to end up. But unfortunately, we got to stay within the province, and we can't go into Ontario, for our favorite lake trout places, especially with Gord Pizer. We haven't done that in over a year with him. The last time we went out actually was just over a year ago now with him, and we had to cancel our traditional trout fishing weekend with him, but that's the way it is.
So the lucky thing is, and just while you're here, before we wrap this up, there were a lot of concerns that folks from outside of Ontario that are CFNers and part of our community said, there's more provinces than just Ontario. And we understand that you guys are getting hit hard with COVID, and you're in lockdown, you're in all these color codes, this, that, and everything else. But there are other anglers than just the ones in Ontario. And we wanted to speak to that, and for that reason, Mike and I decided that most of the country is out of lockdown. In some cases, you might be even in yellow. You might even have the green light when it comes to travel. So we want to allow you to start a little bit earlier than us Ontarians. Now, it sounds as if they might extend the lockdown in certain areas, especially the one that this cat lives in, because we just can't seem to get it right in the county of Peel. But at the end of the day, we made it as simple as possible so people don't have to travel too far. It's basically the smallest fish and the largest fish submissions. It doesn't necessarily have to be, like guppy size in order to be a submission. It's whatever fish you catch. Submit it as your smallest fish or your largest fish. Those are 2 ballots. Or in your case, because Big Windy has 3 known species that hardwater anglers can target regularly, we are looking for a trifecta. So any 3 species you catch, you can add in that division, and you'll also be given a ballot. So 3 ballots are available. They're up for grabs, and there's some great prizes that we're going to be announcing and showing our CFN community in the coming days. So anyone outside of the province of Ontario can start Saturday morning at midnight.
Fantastic. I've got to do that, and we've never done that in the past, but thanks for the little gentle reminder, and we've got to do that. So
Right
thank
on.
you.
Also, Bill just mentioned too the scammer page. Anybody that got a friend request from CFN net, not work, but it's net don't click on it. I don't know who it was that was screwing around. We have reached out to Facebook, and the page has since been shut down, but the links are still active from what we're told. So don't click on it. Just disregard, throw it in your junk, block it, what have you. It's just somebody fooling around. So thanks, Bill, for that mention as well.
I was going to mention just before we go that new Cuda knife. I think you know that I've got quite the knife addiction. This is just a knife drawer here. Here it is. So it is sort of the same as before, but it's the 6-inch sort of a swept boning knife slicer, but it's got this anti-slip handle, which is really cool. Really hard steel on that, and you can actually get them with the sheath, that fits in that. Or
Cameron, I know you run a company, and we don't talk much about it. We probably should, to your credit. Razor's Edge is a company that you have that you're doing a lot of knife sharpening. You also sharpen blades for augers, ice augers. Yep. If someone wanted their knife sharp, because I'll tell you, there's an old guy, God bless him, he runs around my neighborhood, and I hand him the $10 to sharpen the knife, and really, I might as well have just dragged it in the asphalt on the way back because it's dull. It never gets sharpened properly. If I wanted to send you a knife to get sharpened, how would I do that, and how would I go about it?
Yeah, people do actually send me, knives and auger blades from out of province. I get people from Ontario send me knives to sharpen. I was trained in a very traditional sort of an artisan way. Each knife is different, and each knife has a different steel, different angle. And so for 30 years, I did all of that by hand. And so it was about, I think 4 years ago, I said, well, why the heck don't I take advantage of this a little bit and make a little bit of extra money, and so I can buy some more cool fishing stuff. And but this year has been really slow.
Yeah.
There's no restaurants, clubs, hotels, caterers, so a lot of them are my colleagues, and I have not contacted them at all, for knife sharpening on the commercial side. I do have a good following for people that just drop off knives at my house. I don't do any pickup or anything now. Everything has to be sanitized before it gets dropped off outside. It gets sanitized, brought in. It's a bit of a pain sometimes, but I have to be careful. But we should do a show, on, different kinds of knives and knife sharpening. And from what you were saying to that other guy about dragging it on the concrete, so all of the knives that I do, they're done on wet stones. So there's people out there that have like a grinder, like you'd see in Canadian Tire or whatever you have there. And well, I'm gonna kind of hold it like this and then turn on this incredibly fast spinning stone, and I'm gonna put as much heat into this as possible and take as much steel off as I accidentally can, and then a lot of people go, oh, I think I just ruined my knife. Well, yeah. And so knives, they have to be a very specific angle based on the type of knife it is, and whether it's a 12 degree or a 17 or 19 or 22 or 25. I'll show you like this. You know, so this is a camulus knife here. This is done on a 25-degree angle because you're cutting next to bone. You're cutting through fur and skin and stuff like that. It has to be a stout edge. But if you're having something like this, that's done on a 19-degree angle. So I do all different kinds of knives based on what it's being used for and what type of steel it is, and what is the blade, what should the blade have for an angle. And if I do a knife like this one on a 25-degree angle, I've got a wedge cutting through things, but I'm not slicing it. You know, so you should be slicing vegetables and not using, almost like an axe, right? Yeah. If you use an axe, you know, that is like that because you want to hit it and then split it, you don't want to do that with a carrot or an onion, right? So if you reduce your angle, you know, to a 17 or 20-degree angle, it's going to slice.
There you go. Well, let's leave some for the show because that's a lot of good information right there. And I agree, James, a knife show would be a great idea. So we'll make sure that we set that up in the very near future. Cameron, as always, my friend, thanks so much for sharing yet another incredible dish with our CFN community tonight.
Thank you very much.
Right on, my friend. Take care, guys. All the best. As I said, the Winter Fish Fest starts on Saturday morning at midnight. Is there a category for kids in the Fish Fest? No, we didn't want to separate it. Basically, we weren't even sure if we were going to run it, to be honest with you, Victoria. So anybody at any time can enter a fish, whether it be a big fish, small fish, or as I said, the trifecta, any 3 species. Everybody gets a chance to win. And all we want to see are submissions. So make sure there's a lot of youngins that get their submissions. It'll look really cool. Anyway, guys, have yourself a great night. Thanks for joining me and Cameron yet again for what was a great and delicious dish. And as we close out, here is yet a word from our sponsor. If I could only find it. Holy crap. There it is. Night, guys. Take care. Peace.
When it comes to Canadian food, we've got your back with flavors like lemon pepper, beer batter, campfire barbecue, lemon pepper dill, garlic butter and chives, and crispy Cajun. We've got a mix for every meal. Whether you're serving East Coast shrimp, West Coast salmon, succulent walleye, chicken wings, or veggies, we've got you covered. Coat your food in outdoor flavors. Available online or at these fine retailers.